Hi, Diane. Good afternoon. Good to see you again.
Good to see you, Jenny.
Good to have you on here and share all your great knowledge about the city council and how it is important that they listen to what you have to say and all the other candidates. You're running for mayor. And I do want to remind people that the Longmont Chamber of Commerce did a Q&A for all the candidates with 26 questions that is on their website. Longmont City Council candidates. It is a tab and it's really easy to find. You have participated in that, and as well as League of Women Voters. You mentioned Vote 411, I believe it is.
Yeah, I have
And
more to add there. And we did the Longmont Area Democrat Forum that was also recorded.
that was a
And I
good
did
one.
Rational Alchemy. Was one of the first interviews I did. Let's see. I don't think it was recorded, but we've had speaking engagements with private organizations like the Rotary and Kiwanis and stuff. So yeah,
Terrific. Terrific.
so
So
there should be a
let's
lot of
dive in.
information out there about us. I hope.
Yes,
Yeah.
lots of
But
stuff. So
people, if
people
you don't
can
mind me
find.
saying, at elect@dianecrist.com, or just go to dianecrist.com. You can look at my web page, and there's a contact me at the bottom of the page, and ask me particular questions, which people have been doing. So I've been responding to those as well.
Oh, terrific. Love
So
it.
if you have a question into me and you haven't heard from me yet, I've had some lot of feedback actually. So I'll get to it.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Love it. Anything more you want to say about that?
Well, that website I intend to keep as a communication page going forward. My first 2 years on council, kind of stopped with the campaign information. But as we were doing so much with the Northside Safeway and recreation ideas and the library locker idea, I think it makes sense to have a communication page so the constituents are not out there wondering, well, what's going on? Because until the construction fences went up, nobody knew that things were actually progressing. And so
Oh,
it's nice to just have a way to be able to post things where people feel like they're included. And that's one of my goals going forward, is to make sure that we bring the community back together and that people feel like we're all working on the same topics, the same progress. We're all doing our part to move the city forward in a variety of ways. So, and, and
as
it's, yeah, and the city website gets a little overwhelming, even for us.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is there any plan to make some sort of bulletin or something like that? Sometimes you see attached a beautiful flyer or whatever poster that shows what it's going to look like or what it is and who's constructing it, something like that as people drive by.
Yes, the construction fences are up, so you'll see all that information. But also, if you go to my website, once again, dianecrist.com, uh, we talk about, and there's a photo there that was a couple of weeks ago of where the construction was going. But there's a link there to the VASA website, and they have up on theirs, what they're planning for Longmont, which answers a lot of questions. What amenities are they going to have? And it's a place for VASA to update, how their progress is, when their expected completion date is. I will say that I think the original date was for the end of the year. I don't know if they're on schedule, but that's something I'll check in with, probably as soon as I'm done with running for election. Because when you run for an office, you actually do some running, it feels like. I have, for any women out there who are considering it, I usually lose some weight on the on the trail. So we should call it
Nice
the
to
election
know.
diet. Mm.
And if anyone wants to walk around, or should I say run around with Diane handing out flyers, I'm sure that's another way.
Yeah, yeah, it totally is. Yeah. So, there's lots of benefits too. And not only do you get to meet a lot of your neighbors and talk to
Yeah.
people, but you get to lose weight. I mean, what's What's not good about that?
Let's call JFK Jr. and tell him, we got a new program for you. So let's dive into what goes on behind the scenes of city council meetings.
Okay. Yeah, what does go on behind the scenes? Well, there's sunshine laws, so there isn't a lot of talking that doesn't happen on camera. We do have packets that come out every week. Tomorrow we'll have the packet for the next Tuesday, which is October 28th. That's going to be a big agenda.
How many
One of the
pages?
last ones right before the election. We will have one on Monday, November 3rd, because we'll take election day off.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know if November 3rd will be an aggressive schedule, but the 28th will be. Last night we had a pre-session. I really like the pre-sessions because it gives us a chance to talk about what's going on the boards, on topics that are coming before us, and just things that are in the mix.
Mhm.
Something that we had back in, we started an ordinance process in March regarding a house on the northeast side of town that that originally put in a qualification or a classification of having a recovery home.
Okay.
But they had registered sex offenders living there. And so the neighborhood was concerned because it's close to a park, close to a school, and their children were walking past that house. And so that came to the council's attention, and we realized that the house had been retrofitted to accommodate maybe 7 bedrooms. So that seemed like a large number in one place. So just in engagement with the community, that particular community, which is in my ward, and it's adjacent to my neighborhood, I guess we would say. My neighborhood's a little
Okay.
older than that one, but I'm very familiar with the school and the park and how many children. That when that school was built, there really wasn't the traffic pattern for everyone to drive their children to school. So they built it right from the beginning as a walk to the school type situation. So all the neighborhoods walk their kids there or have their kids walk on their own. So there were concerns, and anyway, it wasn't certified right away. There were just problems from the get-go.
Okay.
And yeah, and so we enacted an ordinance that said, and our ordinances are always forward looking, so it couldn't go back in time, but it could go forward and say that no more than 3 sex offenders in one home. And we did look into we had two issues that came up for us. The state had changed the rules allowing 7 to 8 unrelated adults to live together. And so we talked with our legislators about how that is working, on the ground for the city, whereas we are used to having more home rule authority and being able to make those decisions for our neighborhoods. So that is something that may continue to go forward for the council in terms of working with the legislature to change that rule. Right now, they are fairly satisfied with it, but they also became aware of the situation
So how
in
does that
Longmont
work?
regarding that home. But anyway, the ordinance that we put in place worked in that people that were living there, they were paying a little bit higher price for the rent, and they were able to find other places to live. And so the numbers of registered, they call them RSOs, that were living there began to dwindle, and they got down to less, 3, and then now they're down to 0. So within, I guess,
Follows
about
up.
6 months, yeah, I think we finally got the full ordinance passed in April. So within about 6 months, we were able to change the dynamic there. And then
Okay.
I'm kind of curious to know whether that house will be rented or will be up for sale. But it could, and they could also apply for another certification for a recovery home. And recovery homes are generally about recovering from substance abuse. So And that's a different dynamic, really, you know.
So if I were to rent my home or you were to rent your home,
Hmm.
is that something that a renter needs to look into and qualify a person? What if the people renting it don't tell you that sort of stuff? How is the owner of the house going to know?
That's a very good question. Uh, if you're an RSO, you are registered. So
Where do you register
on the
on the
state
state?
sex
Okay.
offender registration registry,
So
I
it's a
guess you can.
form that you actually fill out as an owner.
No, no. These are the individuals. So as a
Oh,
landlord, what you would want to do, or landlady, I should say, um,
okay.
property owner,
Property owner. Yeah,
you would want to do a background check, and that would come up on the background check.
got it.
And then it's not to say that you have to deny them, but you can only have so many living together at one time. And then that will be visible to the public. That's how the public figured out what was going on there, and came to the city council and said, we're really nervous about this home. We have a lot of children coming back and forth, and playing in the street, and there's a park there, and it's tough because you have to represent all the members of your community. And
Mhm.
so we know if people are on the registry, they made a mistake, and they have to it's a process of recovery also. But that has to be very considerate of the neighborhood as well. I think you have to be a good neighbor no matter who you are and where you're living. You need to be a good neighbor. We try to be, in my neighborhood, good neighbors to each other, even though sometimes, you'll go out and you think, what's the neighbor doing planting planting that flower? Like, I have marigolds now that I never had because my neighbor loves them. And they
Oh,
have seeds blow in. But it's like, oh, they're very pretty, and they last, they're just now starting to fade. So
yeah, yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So unless maybe I was marigold allergic or something, but I'm not. So I
Yeah.
just let them grow, and I try to move them around because they blow in. Sometimes they tend to want to grow in the places that you don't want them. But
So didn't you say that you walked around the neighborhood? Did you knock on doors during this episode and get to meet
no, no,
some
that's just not
people?
good form. You don't want to. But I did have a lot of engagement with the neighbors who would email us, who would show up at city council. We did a lot of,
Okay.
I would say, uh, we did a lot of neutral listening. A lot of times it's hard because you come to the council and we just smile and nod, but we do listen, and we do read our emails, and we pretty much that way know what's going on and how people feel about it. And I think maybe what's different is if you're a person who's saying, I'm upset about these widgets that keep showing up in our neighborhood. And then the other neighbor says, I just love these widgets. Can we have more of them? So,
Yes. Yeah.
so we get both sides of the topic, and sometimes also in between, saying, what is the passion about widgets? We just don't know anything. Everybody's talking about them on next door. So it's interesting, and it's an interesting job because sometimes people have very divergent ideas of what's attractive, what's desirable, what makes them happy. And I think there's a middle path every time, and that seems to work pretty well. And so for the council, we talked about this last night because the question was, when we were aware that the number of tenants were being reduced at that home, um, just because the the business owner came to us and said that he had less tenants, fewer tenants, and he wondered if he could have more. And we said, we're going to stick with our ordinance. And so last night we just took a temperature check with every counselor to see how everyone felt about it. And we were on the same page that the ordinance was working as it should, and we wanted to continue with it. And
Nice.
so that's what we're gonna do. Yeah.
Yeah. So is that how most of the issues go? Do you want to talk about how it went last night? You mentioned that you had a preliminary meeting
Hmm.
together, and
Yeah.
also how many documents is it that you've got to work through in a week to be prepared for the each Tuesday night meeting?
You've caught me in that golden moment where I don't know what next Tuesday's night is going to look like. I imagine it's going to be long. And so I
But
will
on
say it's
average,
anywhere usually from about 230 pages to the longest one I've seen has been 1,400 pages, which is
ooh,
quite long. And
yeah,
we basically have 4 days to get through it, because then there'll be questions usually on Monday or Tuesday for staff. But so you've caught me at the golden moment where I don't know. It's a mystery what it's going to be for next week. So otherwise, I
yeah.
might be
I
telling you how hard I'm working because it's the
I
longest
I
one yet. I
just
don't know.
I'm
But
just thinking of if you could give us an idea
mm,
of what's the average, what's typical, because most of us come in, the people that come to the city council meetings, they've got their agenda, and here we see all of you city council people and mayor, and we know we're under the gun because we have 3 minutes to talk. And here's this big computer in front of you guys. We're not sure whether you're listening or hearing. And that's the opposite side. So of you being on city council. So tell us what goes on for you.
okay. Well, I don't always like that screen because so sometimes I'll tilt it. But what it is really useful for during public invited to be heard is it's nice to be able to take some notes because I can save them. And so I
Okay.
know what the topics were that day and who came to talk. And that's nice because we get the minutes the next meeting and to go back and say, yeah, okay, that is, that's what we discussed, or there's more content in the minute meetings sometimes, the meeting minutes, excuse me, that I go back and say, oh, I'm going to add that onto my notes. I didn't get all that in. So, so that's another tool for the counselors. So if you feel like, we're looking at our computer, a lot of times it's that we're taking notes.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
but where do I want to go with this? I think the average number is maybe 600 pages, I'll say.
Okay.
And then last night we had a pre-session, which is something I've been talking about on the campaign trail. Is I think we should have more pre-sessions and more discussion. And last night we talked about the minimum wage. Don't believe we're not planning to bring anything forward about adjusting the minimum wage, which is kind of important for the public to know. But
That
another
is.
thing we talked about is waste management fees. There's a proposal to assess waste management fees on commercial entities, which do not have waste management services from the city. So there's rate increases coming, and so we're deliberating how those would be applied. And I feel like it's um, this is me personally, that business owners, local business owners, are often residents, so they're actually getting a double hit. They'll get a rate increase on their residential bill, and then they'll get a rate increase that they aren't expecting on the commercial bill because that product is not usually on their bill.
Oh,
So we've had a discussion last night about that we need to be more forward with commercial entities if we go forward with adding a new item to their bill. And also there's some changes coming up that might impact that. So we're still working with the water folks, the water department folks, to see if there might be a slight amendment to it or if we'll just go with it as is. There's also going to be adjustments to the composting rates. And so that's something we would like to see. Uh, we'd like to see more incentive for composting rather than going the other direction with it. And of course, composting has been an issue with the distal toll land exchange. But that land exchange, we've decided not to entertain that anymore. But we're still very interested in the composting element of it. So These are the things that we really need more discussion because they're actually quite complex, and it's tough to have those discussions in the city council chamber until we already know more of the details. Once we know more of the details, we can discuss.
Because of the land, because you don't know what, doesn't that involve Boulder County or Boulder?
It could, yeah.
Oh,
So
okay,
the city of Longmont needs it regardless, and
okay.
the toll land was in Weld County, so that was another consideration. Was Boulder County wanting to get involved? That would kind of be a threesome there, you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And,
And how,
so we're not sure of the location. We're not sure exactly how to go forward. I was fairly new on the council when I found out that there was such a problem. Um, the tipping fees are high because of contamination. We have to ship the compost out to Keensburg, which is quite a ways. Uh,
Kingsburg, where? Colorado?
yeah, out
Oh,
east on the Eastern Plains.
oh, okay.
Yeah, it's
A
quite a
city
ways.
I don't know.
Yeah, if you haven't been through the towns, because it's quite a ways out there.
Oh,
But so there's just complexity to it again. And so there's a right answer there, but we need to work through it, I think, in a business way. Um, a lot of times staff comes to us with business ideas. And so we just need more time to understand all the system
lots of
view.
learning, lots of
Yeah,
work
yeah,
for a city council member. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and then there was a discussion last night about we're going to have at least two new seated members, maybe as many as four. So how do we onboard that? How do we change any of the parameters of how we appoint to boards and commissions? Because that happens in December. It'd be one of the first things that the new council members do. Uh, I think it's a great way to learn that process is to jump in right away.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, anyway, there's a lot to learn. Um,
There,
yeah, I've been trying to talk with the outgoing members to see. Now, Councilor Rodriguez has been on there so long, I don't know if he remembers how hard it was when he first started, but I've been talking with Councilor Yarborough about, and she was the only new one when she started. I was the only new one when I started, and then when Councilor Popkin was appointed, he said to me, "Does it get better?" I said, "You get better at it." Is what happens. And he has, yeah. But
oh,
it's like, how long does that take, and what type of onboarding can we do to make that easier? I
yeah,
guess. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Diane, we are out of time.
No, you're
Yes,
gonna say that
yes.
again.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. So why don't you give yourself a little plug and then we'll do this. We have one more time to do it before voting.
Okay. Sure. I think, as we're talking about composting and we're talking about waste management fees and the impact to local business, I think one of the things we really need are people on council who have some business background or some business understanding. It seems like we spend a lot of time discussing that, and it would help if people had some prior knowledge. Where else would I go with that? It was interesting at the State of the City address that was just a week ago, that realized that 19,000 of the employees of the 39,000 that they were representing there, 19,000 are in the local business, which we would call under 50 employees, and the other 20,000 are in businesses that are over 50 employees. So I just want people to realize how really impactful that is to our economy and to Main Street, if you will, if we put in a charge on those businesses. So,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
businesses are people. So you might see establishments, but when you go inside, all you see are people. So it's basically, how are we fair to all the people of Longmont?
And work together and
Yeah,
hear all these voices.
Mhm.
bring people out, get us connected. I love
Yeah.
that idea.
Get connected and make sure that everybody can do what they do and have the tools that they need to be successful at it.
Right, right. Well, thank you so much for coming on again, and we'll see you next Wednesday, same time, same place.
Thank you so much, Ginny. This has been one of the highlights of the election, actually.
Oh, great. I've enjoyed it too. I definitely have, and I'm learning so much. All these questions I have to ask, and and you come up with some good answers. I love it.
Thank you.
All right. Take care, Diane. Thank you
Oh,
so much.
okay. See you next week.
Okay, sounds good. Bye.
Bye.